She stepped into a freezing warehouse at 11 p.m. to make a delivery, praying the payout would be enough to buy her next meal. Instead, she found a dying man in a shredded suit pointing a gun directly at her forehead while two infant twins slept peacefully in car seats beside him. Homeless, 12 years old, and used to being invisible, Lily had seconds to choose: run for her life or offer the killer her last granola bar. She had no idea the man bleeding at her feet was the Korean mafia boss, and that saving him would turn a street rat into the princess of his empire. "Take them." The command was a wet rasp, Min-jae's strength failing as the gun finally slipped from his grip. Lily didn't freeze. She shoved her delivery bag aside and yanked her rusted utility card forward. "Get in," she ordered, her voice small but steel hard. "We're leaving." He collapsed into the metal basket, a broken giant amidst the grime. Lily wedged the car seats beside him, tucking her tattered blanket over his bloodied suit until he looked like a pile of laundry rather than a mafia don. Outside, tires screeched, headlights slashed through the warehouse windows, painting the walls in sudden, blinding white. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. She leaned her entire weight into the handle. The wheels squeaked, a sound like a scream in the silence. Behind them, the main doors crashed open, heavy boots thundering on concrete. Voices shouted in Korean, angry and hunting. Lily didn't look back. She pushed them into the shadows of the service exit, the cold wind biting her face. She was just a girl pushing a cart, invisible and insignificant, smuggling a dying king and his empire out the back door while the wolves howled at an empty room. The descent was a blur of steam and rattling tracks. Lily navigated the maintenance tunnels like she owned them, finally forcing open a rusted door hidden behind a vending machine. The heat hit them first, a suffocating metallic wave. Her home was a forgotten boiler room, vibrating with the rhythm of the trains overhead. She dragged the cart inside, wedging the car seats between insulated pipes. The twins slept on, strangely soothed by the industrial thrum. Min-jae groaned, his eyes fluttering open to see pipe-lined walls and a ceiling stained with soot. He watched, dazed, as the girl dipped a torn piece of t-shirt into a plastic bottle of water. "This is gonna sting," she warned, pressing the cloth to his shredded shoulder. She worked with grim efficiency, cleaning away the grime. Min-jae stared at her, filthy, oversized clothes, a bed made of cardboard, and a first aid kit scavenged from trash. He was a king who commanded armies, yet he was being stitched back together by a child living in the city's veins. He tried to offer payment, but she just shushed him, checking the twins with a tenderness that baffled him. The silence broke when the twins woke, their hungry wails echoing off the boiler pipes like sirens. Min-jae tried to rise, panic flashing in his feverish eyes, but his body failed him. He slumped back, gasping in pain. "Stay down," Lily commanded, checking the empty diaper bag. "I've got this." She pulled her hood up and slipped out into the subway station. Above ground, the city was a fortress of cameras, but down here, Lily knew every blind spot. She targeted a kiosk near the turnstiles. She didn't have enough cash for the expensive brand, so she relied on quick hands. Waiting for a commuter to argue with the clerk, she slid a can of powder and water into her oversized backpack. Her heart raced, but her face remained bored and blank, the perfect camouflage. She slipped back through the service door unseen, a ghost returning to the underworld. Back in the warmth, she mixed the bottles with steady hands. Min-jae watched her from the floor, realizing with a jolt that this child wasn't just surviving. For the first time in his life, someone was providing for him. 2 days passed in the boiler room's haze. Min-jae could finally sit up without blacking out, his strength slowly returning. From his corner, he watched Lily. She wasn't just keeping them alive, she was nurturing them. Harin fussed in her sleep, and before Min-jae could even shift, Lily was there. She murmured soft nonsense words, stroking the baby's cheek with a finger stained by engine grease but gentle as a feather. When Hyeon kicked off her blanket, Lily tucked her back in, her face scrunched in serious concentration. Min-jae had spent years building walls of ice and steel, trusting no one. Yet here was a child with nothing, guarding his most precious treasures as if they were her own. She caught him staring and stiffened, expecting a reprimand. Instead, Min-jae looked at the fierce determination in her tired eyes and felt something foreign fracture his chest. "You were good at this," he said, his voice rough with disuse. Lily shrugged, defensive but flushing with pride. "Someone has to be." Min-jae leaned back, the cold killer finally seeing the guardian standing right in front of him. The peace broke with a single vibration. Min-jae's burner phone, dead for days, flickered to life for a split second before he smashed it against the concrete floor. "Too late," he hissed, his face hardening into stone. They found the signal. Above the boiler room, the rhythm of the station changed. The chaotic thrum of commuters was replaced by the heavy, systematic crunch of tactical boots. The Viper's men were sweeping the grid. "We need to move," he whispered, ignoring the tearing pain in his side. He grabbed his gun, checking the magazine. Lily began to frantically pack the cart, panic widening her eyes. "Leave it," he commanded softly, stopping her hand. "Noise kills." He pulled her and the carriers into the deep shadows of a ventilation shaft just as the door handle jiggled. A beam of light sliced through the darkness where they had stood seconds ago. Lily trembled, her breath hitching in a sob. Min-jae covered her mouth with his large hand, leaning close to her ear. "Breathe through your nose," he instructed, his voice a ghost of a sound. "Match my rhythm. Do not look at the light. Become the shadow." Lily looked up at him, terrified, but she nodded. Under the killer's guidance, the street rat froze, becoming invisible as death walked past their door. The tunnel ended in a chain-link fence. Trapped. Behind them, boots crunched on gravel, closing in. Min-jae tightened his grip on the gun, his body shielding the car seats, but his eyes were wild with the realization, "I can't save them all." Lily saw it too. She looked at the sleeping twins, then up at the man who had taught her to be invisible, but today she needed to be loud. "Take them," she whispered, backing away. "No," Min-jae growled, reaching for her. She dodged his hand and grabbed a discarded metal pipe. Smashing it against the wall, she screamed, "Hey, you idiots couldn't find a train in a station?" The flashlight swung toward her. "There's the girl," a mercenary shouted. Lily ran. She sprinted down the parallel tunnel, drawing the wolves away from the king. Min-jae stood frozen for a heartbeat, agony warring with duty, before he hefted the carriers and vanished into the maintenance hatch. He heard the scuffle, the heavy thud of a rifle butt against bone, and then silence. They had her, and he had left her behind. Min-jae kicked the safe house door open, his gun clearing the room before he even stepped inside. His retired lieutenant froze, but Min-jae shoved the car seats into his arms. "Guard them," he snarled. "If a single hair on their heads is touched, I will burn this city to ash." He didn't say goodbye. He stormed into the hidden armory, stripping off the filth of the underground. He strapped on Kevlar, loaded fresh magazines, and slid a combat knife into his boot. The wounded refugee was gone. The king had returned. He stole a black sedan, the engine roaring as he tore onto the expressway. He drove with cold, surgical fury, weaving through traffic at lethal speeds. Every mile was fueled by the image of a 12-year-old girl holding a pipe against an army. They thought they had captured a stray. They didn't realize they had stolen from the devil himself. Min-jae ran a red light, his knuckles wet. The wind whipped across the rooftop, carrying the scent of rain and impending death. The Viper stood at the edge, his pistol pressed against Lily's temple. She was shivering, bruised and small, her eyes wide with terror. "You came for a stray dog, Min-jae?" The Viper laughed, the sound sharp and hollow. "You really have gone soft." Min-jae dropped his rifle, raising his hands. "Let her go, it's me you want." The Viper sneered, shifting his aim. "I want both." He pulled the trigger. Min-jae didn't think. He moved. He lunged across the gravel, throwing his body over Lily just as the gun cracked. Fire exploded in his shoulder, the impact stealing his breath, but he didn't fall. He used the momentum, roaring as he slammed into the Viper. They hit the concrete hard. Min-jae ignored the agony in his shoulder, driving his combat knife upward in a single brutal arc. The Viper gasped, eyes widening in shock, before going still. Min-jae rolled off the corpse, his suit soaked in fresh blood. He looked down at Lily, who stared back in stunned silence. "Are you hurt?" he rasped. She shook her head. He had bled for her, and for that, the traitor lay dead at their feet. Seoul's skyline burned bright through the penthouse glass, a galaxy away from the Chicago boiler room. Lily smoothed her crisp navy uniform, the fabric foreign against skin used to grime and oversized rags. Ha-rin and Ha-yan waddled beside her, gripping her fingers with trusting, sticky hands. Min-jae waited at the head of a table laden with more food than Lily had seen in her entire life. He looked different without the blood, regal, untouched, but when he saw her hesitation, the king vanished, replaced by the father. He knelt, adjusting her collar with a gentleness that still surprised her. "Stop counting," he whispered, reading her mind as she eyed the bowls of rice. "You never have to be hungry again." Lily looked down at the twins, then up at the man she had saved. She wasn't the invisible delivery girl anymore. She squeezed her sister's hands and took her seat. She was Lily Kang, and she was finally home.